The time I was petty during my boss's divorce, by user Realistic Salt 5017. So, story time. Around the end of 2017, my boss's wife went through a midlife crisis, and decided to have an affair and move out of their house. Divorce proceedings initiated shortly after. In the following March, there was an incident between the two of them that necessitated court intervention, and for them to meet some requirements as a result. One of those requirements was her being required to walk around the house and make a list of all the items that were hers. Cue pettiness on her part. Boss's lawyer stated that in my 20 years of law practice, I have never seen a list this petty. Half of the dish towels. Half of the paper plate holders. Half of the pots. The curtains in the lounge. Etc. etc. You get the idea. She made sure she got half of everything. However, my boss did not allow her to come into the house herself to unpack, as she had spent the previous 5 months stealing out of the house at every opportunity, and he didn't trust her to pack only her belongings. So, he made me do it. Small company, nothing else really for me to be doing, so I dutifully started collating her belongings. This is where the pettiness comes in. She requested 1 saucepan, I shook both, and one had a loose handle. She got that one. She asked for the curtains in the lounge, she didn't ask for the curtain hooks. So I took all of those out. Half of the dish towels. She got all the grotty mismatched ones, not the nice red set. Half of the containers in the storage room. Never specified she wanted the contents, so she got empty containers. I did this for the entire list, making sure I was as petty as possible when packing up the house. The result. Part 1, once she took all her stuff, she sent a very long letter via her lawyer, stating that what she received was not what was listed in her belongings. We painstakingly went through the entire list, explaining that she received exactly what was written on her list, and we couldn't possibly be at fault, since she wasn't specific enough. Part 2, their divorce was finalized at the end of 2019. Occasionally, we will still get the stray email saying we need to return items to her that weren't provided back in 2018. It makes my petty heart burn bright, knowing that she tried to be a bitch about taking things, and I turned it back on her and ruined it by being extra petty. I did not behave like this in a vacuum. I did not screw over a kindly woman that I didn't know. No, I'm not dating or married to my boss. I can't believe I have to say this, but not every woman in a divorce is the good party, and women can be evil narcissistic people, just like men. Divorce brings out the worst in people. I'm my boss's personal assistant, and it's my job to read his emails. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Edit 2. I won't be responding to any further comments, mostly for my own sanity. I've answered most of the questions in other comments, and I want to go outside and touch grass for a bit. I destroyed my former employer's credibility on Glassdoor, and now they can't fill any positions, by user land off 10,000 feet. I worked for a non-profit with toxic leadership. Nobody was doing exit interviews, so I took over. I told employees to leave a review, but don't leave a 1-star review, because that shows you don't care. Leave a 2-star review, because that shows you care. Winky face. Most companies don't have any 2-star reviews from employees, this company has almost all 2 stars. Toxic workplace is trending in the reviews, rating dropped from 3.4 to 2.4, CEO approval is almost nothing. CEO even planted 5-star reviews in her own company voice and branding, but it wasn't enough. Less than 200 employees, and 30+ empty positions at any given point. She's stepping down at the end of the year, and her statement sounded very scripted and her voice sounded very defeated. Peace out. Someone cut in front of me at a restaurant, I made sure he wasted his time, by user Cautious Woodpecker 99. For some reason, I have been getting quite a few people feel entitled and just come and cut in line. Now normally, I don't say anything, but I've learned to speak up whenever this happens. Usually they leave. However, this particular time I thought it is best to stay quiet. He cut in front and just acted as if me and my wife were not even there. He was on his phone so I could see that he had already placed an order and just needed to pick it up. Now, whether he is just not that very bright or was obsessed with looking into his phone to avoid interaction with me I will never know, but he was in the wrong lineup as there is a separate line for pickups, which was empty BTW. He could have gone directly there and been out the door in 30 seconds. Instead, he waited 15 minutes in line, and when he was about 2 people behind the counter I guess he opened his eyes long enough to realize there is a separate line for pickup only. He then proceeds to leave and go to the counter to pick up his food. Thankfully though, the employee who was at that counter just left and he actually waited longer than me. Sometimes staying quiet is the best move. Getting a creepy man fired after his first day, by user disappointed_shrew_. This guy was a cretin, a disgusting, creepy man. He dug his own grave by saying the things that he said, but I was the one that pushed him into it. Not for the shitty things he said though, but for what he did to me. At the time, I was working as a door-to-door salesman. The day would start with everyone going to the office, then everyone getting into a car to drive to a different suburb. This was his first day, and he was assigned to my car. His vibe was off-putting from the start. Every word out of his mouth was about women and sex. He started commenting on all of the female employees that he literally only just met, how hot they are, which ones he'd bang, just gross stuff like that. I was glad none of them were in the car to hear it, but at the same time I wished one of them was. Perhaps with a girl in the car, he would have behaved himself. He then asked me about the women that work in our other branch in another city, since I used to work there. I was not comfortable objectifying them in that way, so I said I'm not going to answer that question. His reaction was disgraceful. I saw it in the review mirror. He whispered something to another guy, then did a hand gesture. I confirmed with the guy afterwards what the creep said, and he said he asked me if you were gay. If you're wondering, the hand gesture was the stereotypical hand flip thing that people do to mock gay people. In case you're thinking that being called gay is what I got revenge for, don't. Being called gay isn't an issue for me, but on that topic, what was so fucked up about that accusation was that in this creep's mind, not wanting to objectify women means you're gay. To him, objectifying women was a requirement for heterosexuality. No, what I wanted revenge for was a bit more petty. At this point, we took a quick pit stop so we could get one last bite to eat before we reached the destination. He went to get his bag, which he left in my car boot. He went to the boot and tried to open the door. He met resistance. Now, for most people, what I call smart people, if they try to open a door but can't, they reach the conclusion that it's locked. This, however, was not a smart person. In his mind, the reason why the boot wasn't opening is because he wasn't pushing the button hard enough. So what did he do? He pushed the button harder. He pushed the button so hard, that he pushed it up into the door. He broke my car boot. I was so fucking pissed. For the rest of the day, if any one of us needed to get stuff from the boot, we had to go through the rear seats. He denied doing it, but I saw him do it. I was in the driver's seat, watching him in the review mirror try to open the boot. I saw the moment it happened, I saw the panic in his eyes. Whatever though, we had a job to do, so I decided to sort it out later. I dropped everyone off at their individual streets, and we got to work. After stewing on it I decided I was going to get him fired, I just needed to figure out how. Luckily, he would dig his own grave. At the end of the day, I drove around town to collect everyone. I picked up the creep last. He got in the car, and he said I just met the sexiest hottie with the biggest tits you've ever seen, fuck what I would do to her. I started flirting with her, then her mum came to the door. Turns out the girl was 14 though, so I couldn't sell to her and the mum wasn't interested, but damn, I wish I could go back there. What in the absolute fuck? The whole car went silent when he said that. I get that some people look older than they are. However, if you're a 30-year-old man and you're flirting with someone, the minute you find out they're 14 you shut the fuck up. You've made a mistake, now pretend like it never happened. Don't double down on it and repeat the story to people as if you've done nothing wrong. However, this is all I needed. It was like a gift from creepy heaven. This guy loaded the gun, all I had to do was pull the trigger. I told the boss the next morning, I told him everything. He said I'll have a chat with him. This was not the reaction I was hoping for, so I said no, you're going to fire him, or I walk. I really didn't want to play that card but I was one of the top salesmen, and I knew he wouldn't want to risk losing me. I was bluffing, but luckily he didn't call me on it. He did fire him that morning. The moment he walked into the office, the boss pulled him aside. Shortly after that, the creep left and never came back. People asked what happened, so I let them know. The other guys in the car backed up my stories, and everyone agreed it was the right decision. The only guilt I felt was that it took him breaking my car to make me want him to get fired. He should have been fired for any one of the things he did. A better man would have reported him, regardless of the car incident. Big Brother learned not to mess with me, for a little while at least, by user _Roman. This is my first post, be kind. I grew up on a farm with my brother and sister. When I was about 5 years old, my brother was 12, I had a doll named Mimi and she was everything to me. My brother decided it would be hilarious to bury her somewhere on the farm while following me around, looking at his watch saying things like, "You better hurry, she doesn't have much air left, she's been buried for 4 minutes, she's going to die." I finally found her in a hole, under a pile of rocks. I was crying, he was laughing, I started planning. He went to visit my aunt and uncle with my dad for the rest of the afternoon, I went outside. He had gotten an ATV four-wheeler that was his pride and joy. I took a 5-gallon bucket and load by load, I took buckets of dirt over and I buried it. I didn't say a word to anyone, we went to bed that night, got up in the morning and we were going into town, that's when he saw it. The mound of dirt next to the back porch where his four-wheeler used to be. He sucked a breath to start yelling at me, my dad, who knew what he'd done to me, whirled around in the driver's seat and pointed at him saying, "Don't you dare say one word. I've been a mama bear since I was a toddler, lol.